Hi guys, I'm Reverend Jeff Will Rumble, and it looks like I've got another rockhounding day. So I'm heading back to Sleeping Beauty Mountain, ancient volcano out in California's Mojave Desert, and I'll talk to you more along the way. Let's go find some rocks. So coming from the Los Angeles, Orange County area of Southern California, I'm currently driving up the I-15 toward Cajon Pass, and over from there I'll go to Apple Valley, Victorville, etc. This area does, sorry about the shift there, this area does get some traffic. Reason being, couple really. One is that anyone who's planning to go to Las Vegas for the weekend comes through here, and then anyone who's planning to get out to the river, Colorado River, for the weekend goes through here. In the wintertime, it's a couple of ski resorts up this way, and it's some of the mountain fun is up here too, and also any trucks that are doing business running stuff back east toward Arizona and beyond, all or Nevada, really, you know, all of that comes through here. So all of that together, this becomes a bit of a bottleneck. So you know, fair warning, I guess. Nature lover for pretty much all of my life, I think. It's just, God has filled this world with so much beauty. It's in the peaks of the Rocky Mountains. It's in a tropical waterfall. It's in the stars in the heavens. And it's not just in the big things and the big scenes. It's in little things too. It's in a flower or a butterfly or a hummingbird. And God puts beauty in weird places. God puts beauty in an insect that glows in the dark, or in the colors and patterns of rocks. So one thing that I just find so appealing is the thought of getting out into nature, finding something in the ground or digging it out of the ground, and then taking that and cutting and shaping and polishing that, so that it can then maybe be set in jewelry, or just so that it can show off the beauty that God has placed there. I think it's with that thought in mind that over the last, well, a few months ago really, I purchased a Genie cabochon machine, and that's probably the best known of the cab machines in the United States. I know there are some others that people are fans of, and other countries in the world have other brands, but the Genie is the one that's best known here, anyways, historically. I'm driving now through Barstow, and Barstow is location for Diamond Pacific, which is the company that makes the Genie. Their headquarters are here. I've stopped in here and stopped at their place, and even during the nastiest time of COVID, they let me in, and they were in the midst of remodeling at the time too, but they let me in, and Don Depew, who is the head honcho there, sat down with me and talked. He was friendly and he was helpful. It was great. The Genies are made, the Diamond Pacific company is family owned, and so they're made by a family, and they Bill Depew, Don's uncle, is flat out famous in the rockhounding community here in Southern California. So he was not there that day, but Don was, and Don was great. So I got a Genie, and one of the things that I really wanted to show you in this video is just the whole process of getting out into nature, finding a rock, and cutting and shaping and polishing it. So I'm looking to do that as a part of this video. The other thing is, and I'm kind of coming up on the turn here, Barstow is where you turn off of the I-15 and onto I-40. From the 15 to I-40 heading east, and that happens here in Barstow if you're on the way to Sleeping Beauty Mountain. So I'm now about 30 miles east of Barstow along the I-40. You can see this rest area here to the right of me. That's important. Maybe if you need to use the facilities, it's important for you that way, but that's not what I'm talking about. the very next exit following that rest area that I just went by is the exit that you want to take. It's Hector Road. However, the sign that comes up and says exit in 1 mile has been broken for the last couple of years. So it does say exit 1 mile, it does not give you the name. Hector Road is what you're after. Just remember that it is the first exit after that rest area, and then you're good. It's only 2 or 3 miles down here, so really you want to be, you want to be on your guard and alert and everything, because it is coming up, and that's the exit you're going to want. Hector Road. When you get there, the sign that says Hector Road next exit will be there. It's just the one that's sort of the advance warning sign that does not really give you an advance warning. Here's what I'm talking about. Super helpful. Okay, so coming off of Hector Road, we get down here to this stop sign. You're going to want to turn right. And then make an immediate left onto National Trails Highway. You will be on the National Trails Highway here for 10 miles or so. It's basically frontage road at this point, at least. It's basically a frontage road along the I-40, and actually this mountain here that you can see off in the distance is Sleeping Beauty. That's where we're going. So yeah, we're getting close. So working our way along the National Trails Highway here, we will have to cross some railroad tracks. And if you happen to be interested in Jasper, specifically in the Lavic siding Jasper areas, one of the ways to get to some of the better areas is actually to leave this pavement and take this road right alongside the tracks for a bit, and then eventually it will separate from the tracks and work its way on down. But that is not where we're going. We are continuing on. The other way to get to the Lavic siding Jasper areas would be to leave the pavement and turn right here, and it's basically out that way and on down along the hillsides here. There's a ton of Jasper out that way. We again are not going there. We are going to stay with the National Trails Highway here for just a little bit. That is, we're going to cross the I-40 now, and that is Sleeping Beauty directly in front of us. So we're across the 40, continuing to the east for just a little bit. Just about half a mile or so beyond that overpass, you'll see this bush on the right, and that is your landmark, I guess, signpost, whatever, to let you know that there is a turn to the left, and that is where we're headed. This gravel here is new since last spring. The area was pretty dusty and sandy, and so if you weren't in four-wheel drive, you could fishtail in through that. I certainly have more than once. But in any event, got about 2 miles along this road. You can see how it continues on up toward the mountain. Okay, so there are several different possibilities, opportunities to turn here, but you will want to keep going straight. Well, I'd say straight. It's been straight before. This is going to get a little bit, about the only little bit of twisting that we do in this particular stretch of road is here. But you're going to want to continue here until you cross under these power lines. And once you have crossed under the power lines, and this road gets a little rougher than it was earlier, by the way, but once you've crossed under these power lines, then you will turn left onto the actual power line road that runs along them. And here's the important part. Here's the important thing to remember. As you make the turn, start counting power poles. First one is 1, then 2, then 3, etc. Power pole number 8 is where you will be turning right. Power pole 8 is where you'll be turning right. Unfortunately, going to need to pause here for a bit. When I first started coming out to this place, over the years really, people would drive all the way up this wash, and it's a mile and a quarter-ish. I've met rock club groups of vehicles, people who camp up there. But last time I went up here, last time I was out there, there were red stakes, like 6 foot tall or more, red stakes that say, simple sign says route closed, or red. And it's all they said, but there was one at the mouth of every wash, not just this one. Pretty much every wash that went on up toward the mountain off of the power line road. So I made a few calls and spoke with a Katrina Simons, who is from the Barstow office of the Bureau of Land Management, and she tells me that there was a decision regarding road and access in the Mojave Desert area there. And so all of those off-road areas are now closed to motor vehicles, which means it's you can still go up there. Access is still there, but you have to walk. There's now no access to anything with a motor going up into this wash area. So that's unfortunate, makes things more difficult, means that you're probably not going to be carrying too much heavy gear or heavy things out of the area. There is still access, just it's now limited. There are no motor vehicles. So when you get to the 8th power tower, that is where you park. That is where you park, and you can then, from that area, walk on up the wash if you choose to go and do any rock hounding here at Sleeping Beauty Mountain. All right, so I'm here at my at my parking spot. This is where the wash basically ends. It turns right, and you could conceivably go on up for another 50, 60 yards if you wanted to, but why? So I'm here, and you'll see there is some agate on the ground here. This may have been dropped here by other rockhounders at some point in the past, but in any event, there's a number of places that you can get from here. Looking up towards this hill right in front of us here, not the far one that's higher, but the lower hill that's right in front of us here, on up toward the top of that is an area of gold moss, and that actually is going to be my first target for today. So it's just gonna run up there and grab a couple quick pieces and come right back down. So I'm now kind of right at the top of the hill here, and I've made it to a place where obviously folks have been digging, I guess off and on probably over the years. But one of the things to think about as I reach down and look for a couple of these pieces here, most of the time when people do lapidary work, they'll start with a slab, and it's, you know, a flat slab of material, and come back to me, and then they'll trace a shape from a template, trace a shape onto that slab and cut it out, so out comes this shape that they've traced, and then round that into a cabochon of the shape, and it then is set into jewelry. That's a nice one. So that's what happens most of the time. That takes a larger saw to do that, to get that slab, and I don't own that saw. So I do have a couple of decent sized pieces actually from right here, from this hole, that can be cut into slabs in that way, but I don't own that saw. And so what I do have, what I did pick up recently, is a small saw that can be used either to take a slab and trim it to a shape, or to cut and trim a smaller piece like this maybe into more of a slab shape. I don't know if this is one that I'd want to do, but into more of a slab shape, and then I can go from there and go on a freeform basis from that. So that's why I'm looking for smaller pieces today. I have several of decent size that can be slabbed out already at my house. So I'm just grabbing a couple of pieces here, and then I'm going to head on back to the truck and go in a different direction looking for some different material. So I'm just down the hill from that little digging area, the hole, and you can see a lot of this stuff. This one's, the way it's shiny, looks a little more jaspery, to be honest. But there's a lot of the material that has come out of that hole, dug by other folks. Some of it is a little bigger, some of it is a little smaller. Here's a little agate vug sort of thing. And I'm just gonna grab a couple of pieces and then get on my way back to the truck. So that worked out roughly the way I had expected. Went up to the top, got a few pieces that I thought were okay, and then straight back down toward the stream bed and back to the truck from there. I'm now headed off to another area that is up this way and around to the right. So here we go. This entire area is filled with these veins of silicated material, so agate basically. Doesn't mean you want all of it, but it's still interesting to see as we hike through. And it's a good idea to check out a lot of those veins, because there can be some really beautiful stuff in those. Here's one of the places I was talking about. I don't know how deep this runs. I don't know what it would take to get it out. But it looks like it's big enough around that it could turn into something. And it looks like it might have some color patterns in there that would be really nice. I just don't, at this point, know, and I'm not stopping at this moment. But that's something to think about. I have worked along the walls right in this area in the past. I have found some pretty neat little pieces in the past. Not only have I pulled some out of the rock myself, but also some chips and pieces that other folks have left behind there, and also in the side right in here. So yeah, I'm actually gonna set my stuff down and spend 5 minutes or so looking around here. So this hill is a place that I like to think of as Reverend Jeff's Hill of Goodness. I say that because I've found good things here. Down here in the bottom, in the stream bed. Well, here's something interesting here. It's a little jaspery bit. I think it can stay. But down here in the bottom stream bed, I found a coffee colored agate. Looks like it's sort of half swirls of cream in it. On up, I've found a botryoidal chalcedony agate, whatever you choose to call it. It looks black if you're looking at it from the top. If you shine a light through the side, all of that black ends up looking gray, and it seems to have a little spot of red jasper at the base of each little little bubbly bit. So that's pretty cool. I found a fair amount of that. I've found some salamalane, which is a manganese mineral. And I found a red, white, and black, and even some of the white turns lavender, becomes lavender. I found that material up in a deposit up toward the top, and that's where I'm headed now. I found the place by looking on Google Satellite and noticing the difference in color, the contrast between what turns out to be this landslide area here. By the way, there's a ton of red jasper. It's not great red jasper, but it's up there, ridiculous amounts. But the contrast between the white of this landslide area and then the more dark brown and green of just the country rock and the bushes and the landscape. I thought it might be interesting to explore that boundary, and then sure enough, here there's all kinds of things on the hill. So up I go. All right, so this is the hole that I've been coming up, climbing the hill for, and pulled a bunch of stuff out of here. It's all the red, white, black, or even red, lavender, black agate stuff. And you can see this piece here is still there. I've taken out of here, but this whole area is a deposit that I've pulled from. I also got a little bit from here in front. So I don't think it would necessarily be entertaining for you to just watch me pound on this. But I'm going to dig around it a little bit and then see if I can find some spots to get a chisel in there and see if I can maybe work toward getting this out. That's what I'd like to do. So I've got several challenges here. Let me get up in here a little closer. One is, as you can see, this rock that I'm working on, I can come all the way around. I can't get underneath and, you know, pop it free from that angle. So it can be as attached as it wants back in there, and I can't easily get to that. The other thing is, as I pull back out a little bit, I'm left-handed, and so getting chisels in around to hit with power from the angles I'd like to, a bit protected by rock here, by rock right here. So even getting in to do that is taking some work. So I'm working at, oh, the other thing is the rock that's sort of around it, the more, I guess, country rock is a term, is softer than the piece I'm trying to get out. So the rock around it can break, and this can stay firmly anchored to whatever it is that's down beneath there, which might be more of itself. So in any event, that's the challenge that I've got as I work at this, and I don't know whether or not I'll get it tonight. I hope so. I'm trying. So nothing quite like determination. First of all, it threw out a few chips here. So that's all right. It's got, but I guess this thing here, I'm not sure what this is actually. You know what? I thought I saw something on here that I was liking. Maybe that was in different lighter. Oh, well, here, this section here, I don't know what that is. Maybe I'll take it home and scrub it up and get a better look. But there's a chip. This really is what I'm after. This piece here is way too thin, of course. But you see the color, you see the pattern. That, here, don't look. Okay, so when it's wet, you can see the color a lot brighter. Sorry about the wind, I should get down out of it. You can see a lot brighter, and when it polishes up, you get that color, which is really nice. So this little chip is way too thin to keep, and I will not. But good news is that this thing here is now loose, and I just have to work at it a little bit, figure out, you know, determination, I guess. Oh, here we go. There we go. All right, it's out. How about that? And this is coming with me. Carrying it back down the hill is going to be interesting because the hill is steep and slippery, but I've carried bigger things down the hill, and so that'll be fine. So yeah, again, sorry about the wind, but time to wrap up. Fill the hole, always fill the hole when you're done, and then I'll get on my way. So it's Sunday. Well, it's a Sunday. It's not the Sunday right after I was out at the mountain. It's this this video is taking a couple of weeks. So actually it's taken a bunch of weeks, and it's put together from several different trips and such. But I wanted to show you what I did get on that trip that you just saw a little bit back. A couple of things. First of all, out from the gold moss area, I got a number of these chips here. Not sure how well that's coming out, and I'm not sure how well, sitting here in the sun, how well you can see the pattern in there. One of the things that's interesting is that so many of them have this sort of sparkle druzy pattern on the outside, but I believe that once they're polished up, that will all be lost. This one's interesting. It's not just gold, it's gold and red. So I mostly focused on the smaller pieces that trip, but here this one's got a bit of each. It's a bit of a mix. So, and it's somewhat jaspery, but really I guess it would be called a Jasp Agate, which you'll be shocked to know is kind of halfway between jasper and agate. This little seam here is not truthfully carnelian, but it's got a little bit of that orangey look to it, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to cut anything worthwhile out of it or not. Maybe. This also was up near the gold moss area, but I believe if you can see in there, there's some gold, there's some red, there's some green. So I think once it's cut open, I think there's going to be some agate in there. I don't know if it's an agate I'll want or not. The big thing up on the hill that I pounded out was this. And pull this over. You can see the good stuff down here toward the bottom, down this way. That's what's really the good stuff. A little bit more of the red and black up here. So I don't know how much of this is going to be usable material. If I want to, seems to have some gold over this way. I don't know how much will be usable material if I want to cut it, but that big piece is what I pounded out of that hole. It took some work, it took some time, but determination wins, maybe, or maybe just I do. I did want to show you cutting, though, to cut with a saw and then grind with the Genie cabochon machine. And I think this piece, which I actually got during a previous visit, again, it's just a little chip. I'm going to go freeform with it rather than using a traditional slab. But I think this is what I will work on there. And when we get to that, when I get a saw day, which is not going to be today, that could be a week or 2 or 3, I don't know. When I get a saw day, then I will work on this and we'll get back to the video for that. This one I found very interesting. It was at that spot about halfway toward the toward this hill is where I found it, and obviously it's got some moss in there. There's a little bit of yellow, but mostly red, and some green. Unfortunately, it's so thin and small, I'm not sure once I cut back the thin areas enough, grind those back, that I have a thick enough piece to cab. We'll see if there's enough left to be worthwhile. I don't know. This one I found especially interesting, though. I drove out to the intersection of the first dirt road that came off of the pavement, the first dirt road that came off of the old 66 highway, and then went back to the power line road. And that intersection, I parked there, and I was waiting for it to get dark. I wanted it to get dark enough that then I could take binocs and look for the Andromeda Galaxy, which is pretty cool. And during that time, I just slapped on a headlamp and walked out into the desert, wandering around looking for stuff. When I picked this up, I thought it was just going to be a red jasper with some green. I thought maybe that would be interesting. But if you'll look, I don't know how clearly you can see, but this is a full agate with some mossy plume stuff all in there. And so I'm not sure what I will do, or if even I can really do anything with it and get anything worthwhile out of it. But at least for now, I'm gonna hang on to it and enjoy it and think about it, and maybe I'll cut it at some point. So that's it for the moment, and when I get a saw day, then I will start some work, and after cutting with the saw, then I will go ahead and grind on the Genie, and we'll see what we come up with. So good morning. Looks like I get a saw session. So this is my saw. It is a high-tech, they call it a slab saw. Truthfully, not a slab saw. It's a big trim saw is what it is. I would be able to cut other rocks, maybe even as big as my fist, but that's a stretch really, and that takes a lot of time and patience that I don't always have. Because you want to be slow when you're cutting rocks. You have to be slow when you're cutting rocks. And so this one is water cooled. I do, to be honest, have a tendency to overfill the water chamber, which makes it throw more water at me. That's kind of where this is here, but gets a little messy, which is why it's nice that when I bought the saw, they gave me this lovely free plastic apron here, and so I've also got my glasses, because most of the time when you're cutting rocks, they do not throw chips up into your eyes. Most of the time. This is the piece that I said I was going to work on. It's not a traditional slab to start with. The traditional slabs, the typical way that cabs would be made is you start with a slab, and I don't have the saw really to cut good consistent slabs right now. So I could get that done elsewhere, I just don't have it today. But you start with a slab, and then you take a stencil and you say, move the stencil around, and you look at the pattern in the rock and you say, this is where I want to go. You draw it on, you cut that out, and you work from there. I don't have that, so I'm going much more freeform. What I do have is this piece that is a thinner chip that I think I can work down pretty easily into a freeform cabochon. I will say the rock out here does not look to be as usable and high quality, so I'm looking for this color patch here. I have a crack there, so what I'll do is I'll cut along that crack, I'll cut here, and this piece here is what I'll have to work with for making a cabochon. I also, just because cleanup is, time and labor intensive, I've got another bowl full of additional rocks that I'll probably work on afterwards. Here, this is from that same hole up at Sleeping Beauty, as is this, which has got some different color, and I think I had one more. Yeah, this has got some neat color in it too. So I'll look to cut pieces out of these, which I can then also freeform into cabochons of various size, shape, and color. So with that, we'll go ahead and fill this thing up and get started. All right, so here we go. I'll apologize in advance for the noise. Cutting rock can be pretty loud, but because this is fairly thin top to bottom, it should also be fairly quick. So as you can see, this material that's out here is not the great quality. That's why we get a smoother cut here, but then it just crumbled out to the side. So this way, let's do this one first. Cut right through here, and that's going to leave us with my starting piece, which I will then look at and decide what else I want to do. So this is a Genie cabochon machine. It's got 6 of these wheels across, and I'll actually, you'll get a better view in a minute. But what I do then, it goes from coarse. The first 2 are hard surface grinder wheels. Then the next 4, again, coarse to fine, as it works on down the line here toward the right. These are called Nova wheels. They've got a little bit of give to them that helps to shape and smooth and dome the stone as you work. The trays get water. I'll fill those in a moment. The design actually is to have 1 in each tray, and then you put it under the wheel. It bubbles water up. I kind of like to put both of them over on the same side. I get a little more water in there that way, and the water keeps everything lubricated, keeps the stone from getting too hot. It protects the wheel itself. It just makes everything work. The stone that we've got here has some challenges, and really what I'm trying to do with this is make something nice out of leftovers. The big pieces cut the traditional slabs, and then you work from there. It's a more formal system. I'm trying to just use the little leftover chips and oddball pieces. And the difficulty with this one is you really need for the cabochon to have a flat back. And this has sort of curves and undulations, and I'm gonna have to work on this. I think this is gonna need to be the front, this will need to be the back, and it's got, as you can see, it curves this way, it curves this way. So in order to, I'll have to grind this some, especially toward this edge here, in order to flatten out that back. And then hopefully I have enough left when I'm done that I'm gonna get a nice stone out of it. I might bring it in and sort of go for a teardrop shape is what I'm thinking. But in the end, it's just not going to be a real big stone, and hopefully we'll be able to get something nice. I've got some other things that I can work on afterwards. Here is another piece, a little bit larger, that comes from that same hole, that same deposit. This is from the red gold moss area that might produce something neat. This is a bloodstone from Acton, California, so it's a different location in time. So really, for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on that piece there, the same one that we cut with the saw. To your viewing a few minutes ago. To me, that was yesterday. So here we are. So here we go. Working in around a tripod is going to be a challenge, but I want you to see at least a little bit of this. I'm not going to have all of it on video, just because it takes too long and that won't be interesting, but apologize in advance for the noise. You can see the little bubbler spitting the water up. That's how we keep the wheel wet. And again, I'm going to be grinding off the back here first, especially this edge, and we'll see where we go from there. Good idea to keep things moving somewhat. Otherwise, just the way the wheel works, you get dents. And that then becomes another challenge that you have to work out. In case you're wondering, the funny hand position is mostly because I am trying to work with my arm kind of looped around through a tripod, and also trying to keep my knuckles off of these other wheels, because if they can take rock off, they can also take skin off your knuckle, which they can and have. So it's getting a little better. Still got this uptick along here that's not as good. By the way, one of my sins of Genie and Cabochon stuff is that I tend to overfill my water pans. And that means that they leak out all over. So originally, I thought, and the back is now reasonably flat. It's not great or perfect or anything, but it's not horrible. Originally, I had thought to make it sort of a teardrop diamond type shape, and when I was first thinking of this, it was going to be a bigger piece, and there was even a little bit of pattern to the red that went with that, almost a chevron shape to it. Now that I've got a smaller piece that I'm working with, that chevron shape is gone, but I've got something to the same pattern. What I want to do now is, I don't want any of these edges to actually be straight. I want a little bit of curve, and I want all of the corners to be a little bit rounded. So I'm going to build a little bit of turn. Not a lot, just a little. And the reason I'm doing that, among other things, it hides the fact that I don't have the angles exactly right, and nothing is exactly equal. That is. So I'm knowingly making a freeform shape, and this hides that a little bit. It ends up being a little more forgiving. So now that I've got the basics of my shape here, this actually will be the back. It looks nicer because that's the side that's been ground on so far. Now that I've got the basics of my shape, the next question is, how do we make it so that it can stay if it's set with a bezel or really any kind of setting? And you know, because if these sides are flat, that doesn't work. Fortunately, the good people at Diamond Pacific have provided me with this lovely bezel guide right here. So I think I'm going to do that on the next, well, here, I'll start here. And the way this works is, if that's going to be my front side has to go down. So front side down, and then I'm just going to grind on this. And if you'll look here, you can see how that's starting to make an angle. That angle is going to be my bezel angle, and I need to keep going until that angle covers the whole of the stone. That means that the front itself will be a little smaller, but that's just, you know, that's how it is. And so I will do that for each of the 4 sides, and then make sure that, you know, that it can stay in a setting that way. So you can see I've moved my my bezel guide over to this second grinder wheel. One of the main purposes of having multiple grades of wheels is each time you move to the next, you have to remove the deeper scratches from the coarser grind. So I've done that. I've not so much off the back. Maybe I should. Well, I'll get to the back and polishing that later. But I've done that here, worked on, as you can see, I've got now bezel edges on all sides, and I went to here so that any scratches from this could be removed. I think I will go ahead and do that a little bit on the back too, but beyond that, this is now ready for the Dopp stick. So this is my Dopp Station. As you can see, it and my workshop in general are super high-tech. Okay, so I guess not. A Dopp stick is essentially a temporary handle that you can use for your rock that, you know, allows you to work it on the machine over there more easily, more effectively. So the idea is to select a stick that is the right size for your stone, and I think that for the stone we're working with, this stick is going to be the one. It uses a rather gooey wax to make that connection. In order to get the wax to stick, you have to heat up the stone first. That's why it's sitting here on the brim. So I'm going to get a bit of the wax, not too little, not too much. As I said, it's gooey, so we get rid of that. Work it up. Stone is heated. And what I want to do is I want to look at the bottom and make sure that the bottom is level. The bottom's the important part, the top is not, and then I want it to, of course, be somewhat centered, and that allows me to work. And I'm going to be, once I'm over there on the machine, I'm going to be eyeballing. So I think this is about as good as I need to be, and I can eyeball it from there. So I'll set that here and let it cool. I'm Also working on this bloodstone here at the moment. I'm going to use this, so I need to set it back here into the wax for a minute or two so that the wax that's already on the stick can soften up and be usable. I should probably pause and confess something that some of you have figured out already. I am really quite new at this. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to learn. I'm learning by experience, experimenting a little bit, listening to other folks who do know what they're doing. But some of you who actually do know what you're doing and maybe are experts probably know more than me, and maybe have already seen mistakes that I made, bad habits that I have. I'm not even sure. So I guess at this point I could probably make some sort of sappy comment about learning being the real adventure, or I don't know, something along those lines. I'm going to leave that for someone else. Not going to make those comments. What I'm going to do instead is turn my machine back on, get this GoPro in my head, hope that I can get it to an angle where you can actually see what I'm doing, and we'll get on with it. All right, so immediately after confessing that I really don't know what I'm doing with the genie and the whole process, I then proved it by slapping the GoPro on my head and leaning forward to work on the genie, so that the GoPro showed just the top of the genie, and I ended up producing a whole bunch of really useless video. So I can't show you the process because the stone is already done. But what I can show you is I can use this one. This is that piece of bloodstone that's still on the Dopp stick that I haven't finished yet. But I can tell you what I do using this. So I start by coming in and I get right over top of it so that I can see the angle I'm working on, but I at a very shallow angle create something of a pyramid. So grinding and sort of spinning a little bit, working so that I have a shallow angle all the way around, and then start working up and down, and up and down first on the grinder wheel, and then on each successive of the Nova wheels. Especially the Novas are where you really get the smoother cabochon rounded shape. Couple other things. One of the things you want to do to be sure is you need to get a light that's somehow up above, because then the reflection of that light makes a little spot on the cab, and you can work around and see that spot, and as long as it stays small, then you have a smooth transition. But if all of a sudden that little spot blows up and becomes bigger, then you know you've got a flat spot. So for this one, which isn't done yet, I have a flat spot right here. So I'm still in process on this. I'm still going to have to grind that out and get that smooth. But then you just you work your way around, and each successive wheel, as you go from coarse to fine, each successive wheel then removes the scratches of the previous wheel, so that by the time you're done you end up with a pretty good polish. And I've got some other stuff that I could use to get an even finer polish than I have now. I'll get to that another time maybe. What I can do though is set that out of the way for one thing, is I can show you what I have. I can show you what I've got here and how things came out. So this is material that comes out of the hole, that one deposit of the red, and you can see this is even more lavender than white. There's a little over on this one, it's a little more whitish at the top. This is the piece that I've been working on. I guess I can get up, but you can see I've got a little bit of it's a drop shape, but more of a diamond drop shape as much as anything. And turn it to the side, you can see that there's a rounded top on it. The other piece that I was working on yesterday is this here. I guess that's a tooth shape, but you can see the color pattern in that deposit of stuff has quite a bit of range to it. This one up here in the corner, much more of the red and black. A little more gray whitish here. This is the first one actually that I made from that material. Here, this one's still in process, so it's not even done. This is maybe my favorite of them. Number of other things. I think I showed you a little bit of sort of an orangish vein that looks a little bit like carnelian, but it isn't. That stuff produces this. That piece is still in the house, but this, it's got a little bit of plume inside, I guess. This little almost botryoidal, I'm not even sure what to call it. I don't know what name to put on it. But that's inside of there. That area where I did stop along the way, along the stream bed, before getting to the hill that had this, that area has produced this red and green, which I think is really nice. I love this stuff. Up toward the top of the hill, this piece, which I've polished on both sides, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's a little bit of a metallic glint to it, and that is because mixed in with the agate here is silomelene, and it is a manganese oxide material, so there's that. Also on that hill, from that hill came this botryoidal stuff. I've got a fair amount of that. Went to the gold moss site. You saw that. This is that gold moss material. And this, which also came from there, actually looks a little more like a brecciated jasper than moss, but it's the same basic stuff. So other things that I've found around that same wash at Sleeping Beauty, you can see this is almost looks like flames in there. This is from a different little side wash here. This also up beyond that hill, down in the hill where I got this and all of these, down in the sand in that stream bed, I found this one day, and it was, could only see about that much poking out of the sand. Everything else, the rest of it was buried. Pulled it up, and it's got really neat, I think, botryoidal with almost a bluish agate over the top. Creates a nice effect. There's another hill up there that has a whole lot of this blue-white chalcedony. So it's really a pretty amazing place, Sleeping Beauty is. And it's unfortunate for us, I think, that we're going to have to do more walking and less driving, but that's how it is. And I understand the concept of wanting to protect the resource. It just becomes a lot more difficult for us to make use of the resource. So let's do a little scorekeeping here. I made a video in which I wanted to give you directions from Southern California all the way to a place where I was going to go rockhounding. But the last bit there had some access issues, so that you can no longer drive all the way. Now you have an extra mile and a quarter-ish to hike in order to get to the spot. I also, in this video, wanted to show you from taking rock out of the ground all the way to a finished cabochon. And I messed up the filming on pretty much the entire shaping and polishing process. And yet, I'm still posting the video. So the thing is, it's still a pretty awesome place, and I've had some great times out there and found some amazing things. And the finished products were still pretty cool too. I think really beautiful and really wonderful. So there's that. So that's it for this one. It's been fun. It's been fun getting out to Sleeping Beauty. I'm not sure right now how much more time I'll get out there, because I don't know how much walking I want to do. And I've been there quite a bit. I'm looking for some new spots. But I do hope that you get out, in nature. Creation's filled with beauty. And God's made some amazing things. I hope that you get out, that you have great adventures too, and that you have a wonderful time doing it. So this is it. That's not so bad. Not bad at all. I like it. What do you think, kid? Learning, huh?